was just going to say that was it last week or last 2 weeks we were in his constituency, and there's one interesting thing about his banner. You'd see lawyer Samuel Abu Jinapor.
Right. yes. In case you forgot.
Just a reminder, actually.
Yeah.
For the local politics.
Yes.
Very necessary. Well, I hope the people of Damongo are tuned in. Listening.
They should.
They definitely will be.
All right, let's get to it. The minority in Parliament is calling for government to stop the implementation of this deal that they've made with the United States until Parliament ratifies the deal. And you quote the law, as the basis for this. But unless I'm mistaken, ratification is something that usually, in fact, happens after the fact. So is that not what is happening here? Government goes ahead with the deal, then Parliament ratifies?
Yes, you are right, Kojo. And let me say a very good morning to your cherished listeners and viewers. You are right. But the foreign minister is on record, and he's come out publicly to state the position of the government. And the foreign minister is indicated that government does not intend to present this memorandum of understanding to Parliament for ratification, and that only when, in his words, the MOU is elevated to the level of an agreement before the agreement to be laid before Parliament for ratification or otherwise. But as you know, the framers of our Constitution, specifically Article 75, were very deliberate, and the provision of Article 75 is absolutely unambiguous, which says that treaties or agreements or whatever arrangements the government of Ghana gets into which imposes obligations on the Republic of Ghana requires parliamentary ratification. And we've had multiple occasions where the Supreme Court has had the opportunity to make a firm and clear pronouncement on the remits or ramifications of Article 75, where the Supreme Court stated clearly that even note verbals, which is exchange of correspondence, administrative exchange of correspondence, will require parliamentary ratification. And I want to believe that the rationale behind Article 75 is just so that the people's representatives in the course of the tenure of a government get the opportunity to scrutinize such agreement, and so that we all will be on the same page and matters will be transparent in the national interest of Ghana. And so this is why we're making the call that the government should lay the MOU before Parliament for ratification.
But is there a need for them to halt what they are doing before they come for ratification?
Well, to the extent that the Honourable Minister says, they do not intend to lay the MOU before Parliament for ratification, and that they will do so only when it's elevated to the level of an agreement. It presupposes that, for example, if it's not elevated to an agreement, the MOU will be operationalized, and the implementation of the MOU will take effect as it is now, without it being laid before Parliament. And several questions have been asked by well-meaning Ghanaians, by civil society, by media about the terms of this MOU. What are the obligations on Ghana? What are the implications for our sovereignty, for example? What are the implications for our national security? What is going to be in it for Ghana? How is Ghana going to be seen on the international stage as, for example, aiding the Trump administration's policy on immigration, which has become a controversial policy where the African Union has had an occasion to make a pronouncement on it, and to be able to adhere to the HO cherished principles of an accountable democracy and governance. It is just proper that the government lays the MOU before Parliament. So it's absolutely transparent. So Parliament will get the opportunity to scrutinize this and ratify it or otherwise.
How do you respond to critics who say that your call might be duplicitous in the sense that you're looking at some other international treaties that we're already signatories to? For instance, the Convention on torture, which provides for the means by which you can move a deportee to a third state. Article 3 of that convention talks about the fact that once there's no danger immediate danger to the deportees, of course, that agreement can be enforced by a third state. So, are we not already signatories to that party? Why do we need another ratification? Then
Well,
for
that's a
this
very good
agreement?
question, Blessed. And I think then the point also that the question that will be asked is that why then have an MOU? Why not proceed on the basis of this treaty? And why not proceed on the basis of the provisions of this treaty and go ahead to admit third party deportees into our country?
Right.
You know, I've just been trying to explain that there are, in my view, my respectful view, very cogent reasons in why the framers of our constitution provided for this kind of procedure within the confines of Article 75. You know, when you get into such agreements with foreign countries, you know, other states, the requirement for scrutiny and transparency is absolutely important. You recall, for example, that the Akufo-Addo administration got into a defense cooperation agreement with the United States of America. That agreement was laid before Parliament and it was scrutinized, and the terms of the agreement were made known through the people's representatives, i.e. the legislature, to the country, and the agreement was ratified. And when you take the process, when you adhere to the procedure of Article 75, you lay all kinds of questions to rest, and then it becomes absolutely transparent. And as I say, in this particular case, we're dealing with a subject matter which is turned out to be very controversial. In fact, some of these deportees have even mounted lawsuits in Ghanaian court, challenging the legal basis for their detention and for their deportation, and even making allegations of breaches of their fundamental human rights and so on and so forth. So I think it's even in the interest of the government for the government to come through the route of Article 75 and make matters absolutely transparent.
The foreign minister is a member of parliament. Have you tried reaching out to him? There are some who say, well, probably because the House is not in session. That's why government hasn't laid this yet. He's a good friend. I reached out just to find out what the terms of this arrangement is.
Well, he's a very good friend, but with the greatest of respect, I think when it comes to these matters of national engagement and conversation, we have to do them above board. I mean, I intend to file a question in Parliament when Parliament resumes. We intend to, let me put it that way, the minority members on the Foreign Affairs Committee intend to resort to all the tools available, all the parliamentary tools available, including also contemplating or examining the possibility of a legal route or what have you, to get to the point where the right thing is done. I'm sure the minister will obviously have taken note of our comment and our statement, and I want to believe that good reason will prevail, and he will take the step to lay the MOU before Parliament for ratification.
If you just joined us, we're talking to Samuel Abu Jinapor. He's, of course, ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament. And, of course, you remember him because in the previous government, he was Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. He's the Honourable Member of Parliament for Damongo. So, with what you know on the surface about this deal, is there anything about it that bothers you?
Well, the first concern is what I've raised, the issue of constitutional propriety and the issues relating to procedure. The second issue, which I believe is of concern, is generally the implications it will have on our country when it comes to our diplomacy, international diplomacy, and standing on the international stage or within the Committee of Nations. As I indicated, we are all very familiar with the controversy surrounding this policy of the current United States government administration. And to have Ghana, of all countries, a very respected member of the international community, taking a step which suggests that we are endorsing this policy and that we are aligning with the United States when it comes to this particular policy. I think it's something that is quite concerning, and all of us must be concerned about it. And as I say, African Union has had the occasion to make a pronouncement on this immigration policy, and indicated that first it's inhumane. Secondly, there are issues of human rights. Thirdly, there are issues of how these people are rounded up and the basis on which they are deported, and so on and so forth. And most of them, and those who are being deported into Ghana, are African citizens, and therefore we are having to be careful how we are perceived out there. And thirdly and finally, and quite importantly, is also some of the speculations and suggestions which have been made as to what is the quid pro quo, what is the consideration, what is being exchanged for this. As you know, Kojo, blessed, these international agreements are not entered into lightly. Right. They are negotiations, deep-rooted, deep-seated negotiations, and they are exchanges. So what is being traded off? And we all don't know. The country doesn't know. Parliament doesn't know.
Do you have any suspicions?
Well, I don't want to speculate, but this is the more reason why laying it before Parliament is so imperative. It's absolutely important.
Are you aware that Ghana is not the only country receiving these deportees as a third state? There's Rwanda, there's South Sudan, and others across the world. So would that Pan-African argument of the president not hold? That, well, we're just receiving our brothers from abroad.
We're receiving our brothers from abroad who have been thrown out of the United States against their wishes. Yesterday there was a shooting incident in I think at Hallas, at an ICE facility or so, and there's a huge controversy surrounding this whole policy of the Trump administration when it comes to their immigration. There's a huge controversy across the world, and there are Pan-Africanists who have, for example, gone as far of indicating that this policy is a weapon for racism and so on and so forth. And so is Ghana prepared to be associated with that kind of policy? I'm not being judgmental here. I'm not making a judgment call. I'm not taking a position on this matter. But I believe that these very important questions will be resolved if we go through the proper constitutional procedure of laying it before Parliament for scrutiny. And the other question that, Blaise, I think you should ask as well, is that if you say South Sudan, Rwanda, and Ghana, why not Nigeria? Why not South Africa? Why Ghana? Why, out of the 54 African countries, 3 countries, you've mentioned 3 countries, why should Ghana be part of the 3?
Let me ask you this. I mean, are we not perhaps overestimating the implications of Ghana's agreement with the US? After all, if we didn't agree to accept them, that wouldn't have stopped them from being deported.
That probably would have. Well, so again, I think it's always important for me to go back and emphasize that we are not, as a group, as a minority group, taking a definitive position on the merits or otherwise, or on whether or not government should get into this kind of arrangement with the United States. And indeed, it may as well be that if this matter was brought before Parliament and we saw the terms of this agreement, we may as well endorse it. We may as well support it.
Would that ever happen?
It's possible. Right. It's possible. It will all depend on the terms or the tenets of the agreement. Now, that said, I think some of the issues that are being raised require some consideration and careful examination, which is that if the United States, the other question somebody will ask you, if the United States did not have anywhere else to deport them to, and that if all African countries had said that, look, the policies, immigration policies of the United States have been long-standing, and that this particular one is draconian, and then this particular one is targeting blacks in particular, and that the modus operandi for rounding these people up and chaining them as though they were slaves and putting them on a plane, and whilst they are on the plane throughout the flight they are in chains and so on and so forth, are even treatments which are at variance with Pan-African spirit and so on and so forth, and therefore we will not associate ourselves with this kind of arrangement. It may get the administration to think twice. It may get the administration to re-examine the policy. But as I say, those are all matters which can be examined once the agreement is laid before Parliament.
Realistically speaking, Kojo, I'm just wondering, can Ghana actually at this moment stand up to a president like Trump? I'm asking the question because of where we find ourselves, and you've been there. Just of course, coming out of government, you've been one time that at the presidency as well. These negotiations will obviously happen at a time where Ghana is deeply reliant on U.S. aid. The first shock gave us a shortfall in our fiscal arrangements. Obviously, as a chief negotiator or whoever will be going into those agreements with the U.S., you'd be mindful about the alternatives when we say no to the U.S. at this moment.
Yeah, so let the foreign minister lay the MOU before Parliament, and let the foreign minister make that case to Parliament. Let the foreign minister say to us in Parliament and therefore to the country that because of A, B, C, D reasons, we are unable, we have no options. We are in a cul-de-sac, and that we just have to swallow this.
Yeah, but
pill.
do you realistically think that we have options now, looking at what's happening in the U.S. and where we stand?
I know. I am very privy to several requests which have come through from the United States and from other powerful countries, China and the rest, to Ghanaian governments, and by that I mean Ghanaian successive governments, not a particular government, where it's been examined and the conclusion has been reached that is not in fulfillment of our national development aspirations or our national interests, and therefore they've been turned down, but in a diplomatic manner. I mean, I don't always remember that Article 40 of our national constitution defines how international diplomacy and foreign policy should be conducted in Ghana, which is that at all material times it should promote the national interests of Ghana, and that is been the crux of every foreign policy anywhere in the world. You have to conduct your foreign policy to promote your national interests, and so what you are suggesting to me is that even if it will not promote Ghana's national interests, because the United States gives us aid, we should just swallow that pill. I don't buy into that.
And could you just one more? There's a chicken and egg situation, isn't it? You look at 73 and 75. 73 comes before 75. I'm talking about our constitutional provisions, giving that power to the president to act in terms of negotiating before ratification. So which comes before the other, ratification or the power to negotiate? Because in 73 you find the almost close or next to absolute powers giving to the president
certainly
to negotiate.
Certainly blessed, certainly will be to negotiate first. There's no two ways about that, and to come to conclusions and make agreements arising out of the negotiations. That is absolutely within the purview of the president, and I think the president is not erred in doing so. I mean, he's very much within his right to have done what he's done, and nobody should fault him for that. That said, once the negotiation is concluded and agreements are made, separation of powers, checks and balances, then the framers of the constitution themselves says that once you are done with that, take it to Parliament for ratification. When you take it to Parliament for ratification, Parliament does not have the mandate to amend, edit or review the agreement. Parliament will either just put a stamp on it that we ratify this, we are satisfied with it, or that we don't ratify it. And if Parliament doesn't ratify it, Parliament will make observations and comments as to why it is declining the ratification or the application for ratification. The executive, the government, will then have to go back to the drawing board and try and re-engineer an agreement which will elicit the support of the Parliament. So this is really a very important. I mean, some people may say, well, why all this? This is all a lot of grammar and so on and so forth. But this, I believe, goes to the heart of our democratic arrangement and journey, that the principle of separation of power, the principle of checks and balances, ought to be respected. And in this particular case, the executive, having done their part of their mandate, which is pursuant to Article 73, as you rightly alluded to, are required to lay the agreement before Parliament, pursuant to Article 75, for ratification or otherwise.
So the deal is signed, whether it's an MOU or it's signed, and deportees have already come. Isn't it too late to turn back now?
I'm not too sure it's too late. I think it's just a perfect time, especially that Parliament is going to resume in October, for the agreement to be laid before Parliament and for Parliament to take a look at it.
We're talking to Samuel Abu Jinapor. We're going to take some messages and then come back to talk about other things. But just before we go on that break, you've been in the headlines recently. You've been talking foreign policy, and you mentioned Gaza, and suddenly there was quite a backlash. Well, what happened there?
I've been taking note of a backlash. But anyway, what we have said is that since President Nkrumah's time, Ghana has been a country which is stood for non-alignment. President Nkrumah famously once said that we neither look east nor west, we look forward. This was at the time of the Cold War, where you had the two superpowers, the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc. And President Nkrumah said, we neither look west nor east, we look forward. And was a founding president and a founding country of the non-aligned movement. And that has been the principle which has motivated Ghanaian foreign policy all these years. And so when there are conflicts, Ghana mostly serves as a bridge building country where we promote peace and we are impartial and we go for peacekeeping and so on and so forth. And the point we are making is that the absolute declarations of the government through the foreign minister, the honorable foreign minister, when it comes to this Israeli-Palestinian conflict, risk branding Ghana as taking sides in the conflict. And then we are simply saying that that is not something which is in consonance with the age-old, time-tested, cherished foreign policy position of Ghana since independence, of non-aligned, of impartiality, and of bridge-building, peacemaking country. And so we are not even getting to the merits, or we're not getting to the conversation about as to whether Israel is committing genocide or not, and this and that and that. But once you make such categorical conclusions and declarations, you risk being aligned with one of the blocs.
Well, throughout the Fourth Republic, Ghana has expressed its views on several conflicts around the world. Even the Russia-Ukraine war, and President Kufuor's government expressed their view on it. Did that make us any less non-aligned?
But the jury is out there on all those matters, and the position that we have taken today is a position that was articulated at the time, and as a caution that was rendered at the time, that we should be careful not to be seen to have taken sides with the feuding factions, and as you know, these feuding parties, conflicting parties, are normally, if you represent it, they represent certain blocks in the world. I mean, you have a group of countries that support this and another group of countries that supports that. And so what we just said simply was that we should, as much as possible, do our best to toe the line, the historic line of Ghana being unaligned.
Let me just find this from the Honorable Jinapor. So are you happy, for instance, where children, women, men who are not in the military are targeted as part of these? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, we did say that, and we did indicate that those are absolutely condemnable. I mean, those are absolutely.
So if those are condemnable and are condemned, will that amount to taking sides?
Certainly will not amount to taking sides, because we indicated that Ghana should continue to promote international law, particularly international humanitarian law. But when you have subjects which have turned out to be highly contentious, which have turned out to be controversial, which are at large, and you take categorical positions when it comes to those matters, you certainly can be branded as taking sides. I mean, the example you give the example you give about women and children, that is black and white. That even in times of conflict, in times of armed conflict, international humanitarian law and international law generally does not permit the targeting of non-combatants. That is the technical language you use. Mm-hmm. So that will not be a problem.
Okay, so if women and children are targeted in Gaza and we condemn that, you say that is condemnable, so you have no problem with that?
That is absolutely condemnable. Hold on, let me give you the answer in full. The women and children being targeted in Gaza is absolutely condemnable, and nobody should take issue to the government if the government condemns. In the same token, as women and children were massacred on October 6th in Israel, where children were picked up 2-year-old children were picked up and their heads whacked on trees and killed. Where children and women were gunned down in cold blood. So that is how I will approach it. I will condemn what is going on in Gaza, which is absolutely to be condemned, just in the same way, and that doesn't justify what's happening in Gaza, just in the same way that on October 6th, women and children, little children, 2-year-old children, were taken and thrown into fire.
Lawyer Jinapor, is your comment not influenced by ideology? You're obviously leaning to the right. And so, well, you might want to side with Israel on this. But when you say that the issue is at large, what then do we make of the ICC's ruling on what's happening in Gaza? And the questions, for instance, that Ghana belongs to the Rome Statute. We of course, signatories to that statute, obviously. So we ought to respect whatever decision comes from the International Court.
Well, I'm not taking sides on him. I'm not taking sides. I mean, there should
much
be
more of ideology.
No, not at all. Maybe, I mean, if you want to scrutinize the ideology of my party, you can do that. I mean, we are not shy of saying that we are center right. There's no two ways about that. But my ideology as a person, maybe after this program, let's have a conversation. You'll be a bit surprised.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is that it's a very simple call. That let's just be careful how we walk on this tightrope.
Okay.
And Winston, the point...
because you talk about the October 7th issue, for instance. Now, that was in 2023. October 7th. We're still in September now. The October 7th, 2023. Yes, there's an attack on Israel. I'm not a fan of going back, but that's when your party was in government. So my question is, at the time, since you talk about condemnation, that would come squarely to your party and say, what did you do when you were in government? Did you at the time see the need to condemn that?
Well, that would have been that certainly would have been the position of the government.
Good. So at what point do you say the comment of the Minister of Foreign Affairs when it comes to happenings in Gaza situates Ghana in taking sides when you clearly agree some of these things are condemnable?
Well, the Minister for the point was not about the Minister for Foreign Affairs commenting on happenings in Gaza. I mean, for example, if the Minister of Foreign Affairs called for Israel to respect the rights of civilians not to be attacked, if you condemned the killing of women or children in the cause of armed conflict, and so all of those things would be permissible. But what the minister said was that Israel was perpetuating genocide. And I'm saying that matter is become a matter of intense controversy where countries have aggregated into blocks. And we are just saying that let's be careful.
But what then do we make of the ruling? That's why I was asking the question. Because there's a ruling, a pronouncement by the international courts on this.
But the point I'm making is that when you make such absolute declarations and such absolute declarations publicly, and the government of Ghana may as well come to the conclusion upon examination that this is what is happening and this and that and that. There are fine diplomatic routes which you can employ as not to put Ghana out there as taking sides in this particular conflict, which will have far-reaching implications for the national interests of our country.
We've talked a lot about foreign policy. We're going to talk about Galamsey now. And we just heard that last clip of the president pointing out his desire to do anything but a state of emergency because he believes that should be the last resort. You must feel particularly gratified to hear the President Mahama taking the same position President Akufo-Addo took.
Well, first of all, I'm not too sure that it's the same position President Akufo-Addo took, and I'm not also so sure that that should be the basis of the conversation. Look, I've been very careful and reluctant to veer into this conversation and also to be overly critical and all of that, because I was, in all modesty, privileged to be in that office for 4 years, and I know the pressures that comes with this efforts and fight. And therefore, my successor, Minister Amaboa, I've always maintained that we should give him time and space to be able to get his hand on this matter. As you can tell, it's a very difficult fight. We all come to it differently. On one occasion, the minister even had to weep in public. It was tough, and it tells you how much pressure he's under. The question of state of emergency, I believe, it throws up a few things. I believe the first one, and one of the issues that people have really spoken to, is the fact the issue of consistency, the issue of integrity, political integrity, and when you make a commitment and you come into government, you are expected to follow through the commitment. That is one bit of it, and that even has no bearing whatsoever on the fight against illegal small-scale mining Galamsey. It's just a principle of it, and I've heard a good number of people make that point, that you said you declare a state of emergency, you are in government now, please just do that. And you must have believed that a state of emergency was an important weapon or tool to deal with illegal small-scale mining. Secondly, it's also quite obvious that we've got into a crisis situation, and I hear people talk about the color of river bodies and this and that and that. But one of the ways of judging how well the fight is going and whether we're making progress or not is the turbidity level of our river bodies. And I think one report last week also said that the turbidity level of our most of the river bodies is gone up by 300% or so. I mean, that should give you absolute concern. When I was minister, the Minister for Water Resources was required to provide turbidity levels fortnightly. Every cabinet, there was a report on the turbidity levels of our river bodies. And if the turbidity level was getting worse, it meant that the fight against illegal small-scale mining was not working. And to have turbidity levels in one report say it's gone beyond 300%, that means we've gotten to a tipping point. We are in a state of crisis. And of course, several reports which talks about finding chemicals in foodstuffs, in vegetables, in fruits, and it's worrying.
So are you saying that we were not in crisis under Akufo-Addo, but we are now?
I haven't said that. We had a situation on our hands. We had a crisis on our hands under Akufo-Addo. There's absolutely no two ways about that. But I am worried. I am concerned that today we are being told that the turbidity levels is gotten far worse. So we then have to ask ourselves, I mean, the Akufo-Addo administration obviously did not deal with Galamsey conclusively. I would be disingenuous to sit here to say so. But I'm doing a comparative analysis of the turbidity level, and that should give us concern, cause for concern, cause for worry. I also said when we were in government, and I want to repeat it, that we will not make a headway if we politicize this matter. Of course, the NDC were huge beneficiaries of Galamsey politics in the run-up to the 2024 elections. The NPP lost considerably in 2020 and lost even more, even much more in the 2024 elections. And there's a tendency for the NPP and its collaborators to say this is payback time. But I just will advise that we should not go down that route, because it will just not help. It will not. You will not have the political will and spine to deal with this matter if your political opponents are kicking Galamsey as a football. It should be a national call, and all of us should be united in the fight against illegal small-scale mining. But having said that, it's absolutely important, Kojo, also to make the point, Blessed and Winston, that you cannot also say don't politicize it. And when your government, your party comes into office, the leadership of your party, the rank and file of your party, now say this is our turn. This is our turn to take concessions. This is our turn to jump into the fray and to mine indiscriminately. And that security people cannot arrest us. They cannot sanction us. They cannot, the route to coming to grips with illegal small-scale mining, that I've said so many times, and I think it's a three-pronged approach. First is the depoliticization, having the national will and consensus to back whatever efforts that are being put in place. Right. Two is to have the reforms in place, which is why I follow the debate about the grant of licenses and so on and so forth. Of course, even when the point is clear that the claim that the Akufo-Addo administration granted more than 2,000 licenses is not true. It's false.
It's not true?
It's not correct. I have the data. The Akufo-Addo administration did not grant 2,000 licenses. You can fact check that. And it's not also correct that the Akufo-Addo administration granted more licenses than, say, the Mahama administration. And that exercise is not even useful. Because why? Kojo, you talk to all the panelists, talk to the experts. They will tell you that one of the main problems of, one of the main reasons why you have an escalation in illegal small-scale mining is the lack of formalization of the sector. It's when the sector is not formalized.
I would have agreed with that, except that by granting licenses, you didn't formalize the sector.
Yeah.
In fact, what you ended up doing was you allowed people to go and mine in forest reserves. Right, and that is not formalizing.
So,
the sector,
could you? That again is the issue. That again is the point. Listen, the law is clear. Small-scale mining is not permitted in forest reserves. So, a grant of a license cannot result in people mining in forest reserves.
So, how many
LI 2462?
No, hold on. I hope we have a bit of time. First of all, general rule and small-scale mining is not allowed in forest reserves by law. The Minerals and Mining Act 206 Act 703. What is allowed in forest reserve is large-scale mining. So your argument will come in when you talk about, for example, people come for prospecting licenses for large-scale mining, and they end up using the prospecting licenses to mine. And I had given a decree that small-scale, large-scale mining, prospecting in forest reserves were outlawed. So one, you are not allowed to mine.
But except that some people use these prospecting licenses to mine.
That's the point I'm making.
So when these persons use the prospecting licenses to mine, that is not formalization. That's an illegality, isn't it?
You are dead right on that, and that's exactly the point I'm making. And I'm saying that as far back as 2021, I had given a ministerial fiat, which is pursuant to Section 100 of Act 703, which gives the minister broad powers to regulate the mining sector, that even prospecting in forest reserves is not allowed. So you don't have this kind of situation. So what's the point I'm making? The point I'm making is that so your point and the point that Kojo also makes is that you will find illegalities within purported lawful license regime. So you give somebody a license, go and mine in the particular concession, mine this way, mine that way, and the person gets there and the person is operating outside the terms of the license you've granted the person. So I'm saying let's have all those conversations. And the third tool that is important, and here I think I should be blunt on that. I think that is what is hugely missing now, and that's why I think the government should pay attention to. There's no serious enforcement regime today. And the small-scale mining sector is such that once you get to a point where there is even the slightest sense of impunity, you have a problem. I mean, we are told that mining is taking place by roadside, is taking place blatantly, and you do not have any form of enforcement regime. You will recall that the Akufo-Addo administration actually went as far as decommissioning excavators. In other words, burning excavators. It became a big controversial issue here in Ghana. I was hauled to Parliament by Minister Okudzeto Ablakwa, then who was the ranking member for Foreign Affairs, to give the justification for the burning of excavators. So until the government reintroduces some form of enforcement regime, I think this situation is just going to get worse.
Okay, Honorable, listen to something. I just have this sound that I want you to listen to, and after that I would ask you my question. Listen to Aban Sumana, Kingsford Bagbin.
And the people you are talking to are aware. It's not that they are not aware. They are aware that you are some of you are participating in it. So please, first desist from doing it yourself. Don't go to them for the money for your campaigns. Don't go to solicit their votes. Let them see you work. Truly, it's a disgrace that we've gone to this far. Look at the water. Horrible.
So Speaker Bagbin said in Parliament that some of you, I mean, as in some members of Parliament, were engaged in illegal mining. Some go to these persons and take money. Now, you are former minister. Let's look at this, because you said let's depoliticize this. Let's talk about it with the nation at heart. What is the challenge with politicians' involvement in illegal mining?
I think we have to be honest about the situation, and we have to be blunt. And I said it when I was minister. I said it. And maybe at the time, in the course of the discussions and the rest, it probably would have been drummed out. And the point is this. So mining is the ingredient, the basic ingredients in mining is money. Okay, Winston, it's money. Gold, the gold price today has never been this high. An ounce of gold today is being quoted at $3,500 US. And the world is in a state of turbulence. And history teaches us that whenever the world is turbulent, you have so many wars, you have trade wars, you have tariffs, you have a lot of unpredictability. A lot of people are comfortable in putting their investments in gold because that is very secure. So there is a drive. And when it's money, just like the cocaine trade and all other illicit trades, you have all manner of people getting involved.
Okay.
You have politicians, you have security agencies, you have...
Did you approve any license for any company owned by a member of parliament while you were in government?
Well, I probably wouldn't know from where I sit.
Did you hear allegations of some members of parliament involved in illegal mining?
Certainly.
Did you investigate them?
When you have those kinds of situations, you refer to the security agencies. I did refer so many of such allegations to the security agencies, and one of them is Akunta Mining, which I forwarded to the IGP for investigations to be conducted, because I'm sure you obviously asked a question on that. So there's no question whatsoever that when you have an industry such as the gold industry, and it is the case for several other illicit industries across the world, like the cocaine or timber industry,
Honorable Jinapor,
you have prominent people getting involved.
So for those names that you heard, the allegations, did you speak to any of them?
No, I haven't said I had names.
No, you said there were allegations. So those allegations, there probably will be names involved. Oh, this person could be doing that. I'm saying, did you speak to any of them?
No, I don't have names. I'm saying to you that generally, whenever you had allegations relating to illegal small-scale mining, you just forward it to the security agencies.
So what did you forward to them, if not names?
Well, I'm talking about when you have allegations. I mean, for example...
But when I allege that someone is engaged in illegal mining, I'll tell you the person's name. When you're forwarding allegations to the police, you're forwarding allegations that includes names. So which names were you told?
So hold on. Let me just explain this to you. You know, what we do at the Ministry of Lands will be, you have tip-offs of, illegal mining happening in this part of the country or here and that. And we had what we call the Operation Halt, which was the military, and we had a secretariat, and I think this government is trying to replicate that and so on and so forth. You then tip them off to go and deal with the situation. The question you are asking, if you are asking a categorical question, did you have a report or an allegation on, say, member of parliament A or B being involved in illegal mining? My answer to you is categorically no, and that's an honest answer.
Are you suggesting that the Speaker of Parliament had more information about people engaged in illegal mining than the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, under whose responsibility we're supposed to be dealing with that?
But the Speaker did not mention names.
He didn't mention names, but he said we know. Just listen to this again.
You never finished with any such name.
No, wait, just listen to the Speaker again. Just listen to the Speaker. Listen to Speaker Alban Bagbin.
And the people you are talking to are aware. It's not that they are not aware. They are aware that some of you are participating in it. So please, first desist from doing it yourself. Don't go to them for the money for your campaigns. Don't go to solicit their votes. Let them see you work. Truly, it's a disgrace that we've gone to this far. Look at the water. Horrible.
The people that you are
so let me ask a question before I even... So when was this said? When MPP was in government?
Yes.
Yeah, but today the Speaker's party is in government. Why don't they arrest those people?
No, but I'm asking
why don't they take them on?
But I'm asking you first because you were the supervising minister.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm asking because the Speaker makes that point and you are tasked with ensuring that. So I want to know, because you say depoliticize it. But before we depoliticize it, crime has no political color.
Absolutely.
That is why I'm asking, are you saying that at no point in time were you informed that, Asumesi Obenting is involved in illegal mining? Because you say you forward allegations to the police. You didn't hear any name?
Not an MP.
But you heard politicians?
Well, not specific names. I mean, the one I know of, which was a subject matter of public engagement, was the one relating to the chairman, the Ashanti Regional Chairman, Akunta Mining and the rest. But the more important point is that today there's a government in place. There's a government in place. And the point I make about depoliticizing illegal small-scale mining is that if, for example, what the speaker said, if they have names of MPs who are involved in illegal small, they should go after them. Just the same way that there are this widespread allegation across the spectrum that the new government has high-ranking NDC officials involved in illegal small-scale mining. If that is the case, let's go after them.
Okay, we'll get back to you.
Winston, I was just going to chip in this one briefly because he made a statement which I want us to be clear on. The data on the number of small-scale mining licenses you issued. Joy News Research did a comprehensive work using the Mineral Commission's repository. 2,000 licenses, we are told, plus that you issued between 2019 up until the time you left office. Are you challenging these numbers, or you say there are specific numbers that you dealt with which was under the 2,000?
I was a minister from 2021 to 2025.
Do you have?
And I'm saying I did not issue 2,000 licenses. In fact, one of the biggest problems I had, actually, there was one occasion where the Small Scale Miners Association almost went on a demonstration against me, that I was not issuing licenses, I was not granting licenses.
Do you have the numbers?
I can furnish you with the numbers between 2021 to 2025. Certainly nowhere close to 2,000 licenses.
Because if you take a look at our research, the highest or the peaks for these 2 seasons where we had the highest level of issuance was in 2019 and 2024 at the time you were leaving office. I think about 3 or 4 more came on stream even before January 7.
Yeah, but always remember that the small-scale mining industry, we never even had small-scale mining until 1983. Remember that. And over the period, the industry has grown and grown and grown and grown. You heard President Mahama talk about his contribution to our gold output, to gold board, to our receipts, foreign exchange receipts, and so on and so forth. But the point I made is that the claim that between 2021 to 2025, 2,000 licenses were issued is not correct.
But it's from 2016 to 2025. Under the NPP
2016
2019 to 2020.
And what was it between 2016 to 2021?
Well, it's way less than the number we are dealing with 2,000. You issued the highest since independence.
But that's the point I'm making, that ordinarily when licenses are issued, it presupposes that you are attempting to formalize the sector. And so in and by itself is not to be seen as a bad move. If you issue licenses and you have regulated, environmentally sound small-scale mining, that is the way to go. That is what we call alternative mining to illegal small-scale mining. And that I'm sure that Ghanaians will not be offended by that. If people are not mining on river bodies, they are not mining in forest reserves, and they are mining properly, they will not have a difficulty with that. But today, what the situation we have today is that you literally have a complete breakdown of any enforcement mechanism whatsoever. I mean, I'm comforted with the minister saying he's going to declare river bodies and forest reserves as security zones. But remember that we declared those places as red zones and decommissioned excavators.
Yes, Abu Jinapor. So this is the data. Between 1988 to 2008, 40. Between 2009 to 2016, 59. Between 2017 to 2025, by the time the NPP left office, 2,151.
What was it between 2009 to 2017?
2009 to 2016.
2017?
No, hold on.
Okay, 2016, whichever.
Yes, that's 59.
Yes. So the point I'm making to you is that, first of all, the small-scale mining industry is an industry which is being on an upward trajectory.
And this is from the mining repository.
Yeah,
anyway, yes,
it's like Minerals Commission.
Well, I have different data though. Okay. I can share that with you now.
Probably when we
I have different data. But I don't even want to get into that because the point which should be made, and I can share that data with you now. The point which should be made is that the industry has grown since 1983 when it was introduced into our country, all this period. Okay. And ordinarily, the grant of licenses rather should help in curbing illegal small-scale mining, unless when you have illegalities happening within the confines of a license that is being issued.
Okay.
And so you make the argument that one political party issued so many licenses and therefore that party was promoting illegal small-scale mining. That may be the contrary.
A bit gratified by the current Lands and Natural Resources Minister's decision to turn these water bodies and forest reserves into security zones. Would you say that that is a better option than the state of emergency that is being called for?
Well, before I do that, I mean, I think it's important that we are fair to the facts and the data, and we give the listening public the correct data. So my office has just sent me the data when it comes to licenses, and this is really information that is verified. The small-scale licenses which were issued between 2012 to 2016 is 1,402. 1,402. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Between 2017 to 2024 is 1,014. The licenses which are valid to date is 984. I can go over it again. 2012 to 2016, 1,402. 2017 to 2024, 1,014. Licenses valid to date is 984. And I'm told that when this information, Winston,
and what's the source of this data?
Well, this is Minerals Commission and Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, and that even when this information was put out, the one Winston put before me, the ministry actually and the Minerals Commission issued a statement to correct it and to put this particular information out. But I think it's also important for me to be very quick to point out that one would say, for example, that therefore illegal small-scale mining was worse between 2012 to 2016 because more licenses were issued and it was better under the MPP and all that. I don't get into that kind of argument because as already articulated, and I like to have this conversation in a very dispassionate manner. The grant of licenses in and by itself, is to be good. It's supposed to be a tool that you deploy to curb illegal small-scale mining by creating a formalized and mining industry which is alternative to illegal small-scale mining. So this in itself should not be wrong. But what is important is when you grant the licenses, you follow through to make sure that they mine in accordance with the dictates of them of those licenses which have been granted. And as I say, this was one of the biggest criticisms I had to go through, that I never signed licenses under my tenure between 2021 to 2025. The question about security zones, no, I haven't said that it's a better alternative to state of emergency, not at all. The declaration of security zones is very much the same as the declaration of river bodies and forest reserves as red zones. When I was Minister of Lands, that's exactly what we did, to declare forest reserves and river bodies as red zones. So we will wait for the details of the security zone and what it entails. What would be the contours of the security zone declaration? What is it going to mean? I mean, for example, when we declared red zones, river bodies and forest reserves as red zones, we went as far as burning excavators which were found 200 meters or so from the banks of all rivers of Ghana and forest reserves, and therefore it will really come to what the implications will be. What is the ramification of this declaration? What is it going to entail? But the declaration of a state of emergency was a clear commitment by this government. This government committed clearly. It was a social contract. It was an electoral contract between the political party, the NDC, and for that matter, this government and the Ghanaian people, that they believed that the declaration of a state of emergency is the most effective tool at fighting illegal small-scale mining. So that's what people are calling on them to do.
President Akufo-Addo never buckled under any pressure to declare security zones. Is that not exactly what John Mahama is doing?
But President Akufo-Addo never promised to declare a state of emergency. He never committed to declare a state of emergency. He never did. When TUC threatened a strike action and UTAC actually declared a strike action and insisted that, and the Bishops' Conference insisted that we should declare a state of emergency, the NDC said they will. But these are two different things.
But isn't it because the President Akufo-Addo thought it was a bad idea?
Well, President Akufo-Addo never said it was a bad idea. But he never did. He never said it was a bad idea.
Right.
But the most important thing is that this government believed that the state of emergency is the best tool to dealing with illegal small-scale mining, and they have the opportunity, and that's what people are saying. Follow through with your commitment of declaring a state of emergency to deal with illegal small-scale mining. It's merits or otherwise, we can get into that.
Yes.
I have a quick question for you.
Okay, great.
Because he talked about, the genocide comment. So this is the United Nations, Human Rights Office of the High Commissioner. And the story here says, Israel has committed genocide against Palestinians In the Gaza Strip, the UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the Occupied Palestinian Territory, including East Jerusalem and Israel, said in a new report today, and the commission urges Israel and all states to fulfill their legal obligations under international law to end the genocide and punish those responsible for it. Published on the 16th of September 2025.
So what's the question?
The question here is, the UN admits that what Israel did in Palestine amounts to a genocide. What's wrong if the Foreign Affairs Minister makes a similar comment?
Yeah, what is wrong is that public posturing in diplomacy is absolutely important. And the question you have to ask yourself is that why is it that several African countries are not taking the same attitude that our foreign minister is taking?
The UN
and they are,
says
and, well, there are several countries. There are several important countries in the world and in Africa who have not come out publicly to associate themselves with this kind of conclusion. And as I say, the point is not about whether there's a commission of genocide or not. There's not really making a judgment call, but it's posturing, public posturing. What you say in public has far-reaching ramifications for our country, and Ghana has always taken the path of tempered, measured, non-aligned, balanced diplomacy. That's what we're calling the minister to do.
Were you really using tap water to brush your teeth last
But I was being very honest with you. I was absolutely, one thing.
Yeah.
The thing about these things, I can understand you a dadaba,
Yes, I was telling him.
Bless, you see what I mean? How am I going to go and use voltic water in Damongo to brush my teeth? Damongo? When I go to Domia Brow, I go to Kidendlimpa, or I go to Jamfaru, and they bring me water in a calabash, I'm now having to say that I don't drink water in a calabash. You should bring me voltic water from my car. Is that about you that got you to doubt me?
I wasn't the one who was doubting.
You know what I mean?
But there were lots of messages from.
I've been in a car. I've been in a car with a young chap. A friend's child in my constituency, and he sees little boys peeing on the street or something, and he shouts. He says, "Look at them! They are peeing on this. What's going on?" I say, "You are obviously a radaba."
Samuel Abu Jinapor, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you for having me.
Bless,
thank you for having me.
It was great.
It's been wonderful.
Yeah, we should be doing this often.
Yes, much more often.